Hello, folks. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the live show where we are awaiting President Donald Trump to speak at the World Economic Forum. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the live show where we are If you're live with us and if people in the chat can't see the stream yet, please tell them to refresh. If anyone's having problems with the live stream. We are live in the World Economic Forum here in Davos 2025, ready to see Donald Trump speak, answer some questions and speak via live link to the WEF. So I thought I would show this because there's many people asked what this will be about, and they wanted to see kind of what would be said in terms of keeping up with world events and what's going on. So we are showing this today as part of our live coverage to show you what's going on in the world and what's being discussed. I know there was the announcement the other day with the AI and what they call AGI, the artificial general intelligence. So I don't know exactly what will be discussed here. I suppose that he's recently become the president of the US again, but it will be interesting to see what questions are posed in the Q&A, kind of the whole atmosphere of the event and what's going on. So yes, it should indeed be interesting. Welcome to the live chat, everyone. Please do click like on the live video if you would. It really helps us to get the content out there so that more people see it. If you haven't already, thank you. Please do subscribe, click the notification bell. Here we go. Klaus Schwab will introduce Donald Trump at the WEF 2025.
Mr. President,
hello.
What great honor and pleasure to welcome you back to the Davos community. Just 4 days into your new mandate, we highly appreciate your presence with us today. We wish you all the best as you take on your critical work ahead. The global challenges we face today are monumental. The importance of American leadership and your personal leadership in this regard is fundamental and paramount. We are here to hear your vision and policies related to revitalizing the economy and addressing the global challenges. As you might expect, Mr. President, your return to office and your forthcoming policies have been at the focus of our discussions this week. The discussions among 3,000 political and business leaders from over 130 countries who came together here in Davos. We look forward to hearing first from you and then to the follow-up discussion with business leaders moderated by my colleague Børge Brende. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Well, thank you very much, Klaus, and hello to everyone in beautiful Davos. This has been a truly historic week in the United States. 3 days ago, I took the oath of office, and we began the golden age of America. The recent presidential election was won by millions of votes, and all seven, every one of them, all seven swing states, It was a massive mandate from the American people like hasn't been seen in many years. And some of the political pundits, even some of my so-called enemies, said it was the most consequential election victory in 129 years. That's quite nice. What the world has witnessed in the past 72 hours is nothing less than a revolution of common sense. Our country will soon be stronger, wealthier, and more united than ever before, and the entire planet will be more peaceful and prosperous as a result of this incredible momentum and what we're doing and going to do. My administration is acting with unprecedented speed to fix the disasters we've inherited from a totally inept group of people and to solve every single crisis facing our country. This begins with confronting the economic chaos caused by the failed policies of the last administration. Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy restrictions, crippling regulations, and hidden taxes like never before. The result is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world. Food prices and the price of almost every other thing known to mankind went through the roof. President Biden totally lost control of what was going on in our country, but in particular with our high inflation economy and at our border. Because of these ruinous policies, total government spending this year is $1.5 trillion higher than was projected to occur when I left office just 4 years ago. Likewise, the cost of servicing the debt is more than 230% higher than was projected in 2020. The inflation rate we are inheriting remains 50% higher than the historic target. It was the highest inflation probably in the history of our country. That's why from the moment I took office, I've taken rapid action to reverse each and every one of these radical left policies that created this calamity, in particular with immigration, crime, and inflation. On day one, I signed an executive order directing every member of my cabinet to marshal all powers at their disposal to defeat inflation and reduce the cost of daily life. I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze, and I created the new Department of Government Efficiency. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Scam, withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord, and ended the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate. We're going to let people buy the car they want to buy. I declared a national energy emergency, and that's so important, national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold under our feet and pave the way for rapid approvals of new energy infrastructure. The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we're going to use it. Not only will this reduce the cost of virtually all goods and services, it'll make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. My administration has also begun the largest deregulation campaign in history, far exceeding even the record-setting efforts of my last term. In total, the Biden administration imposed $50,000 in additional regulatory costs on the average American household over the last 4 years. I have promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every new regulation, which will soon put many thousands of dollars back in the pockets of American families. To further unleash our economy, our majorities in the House and Senate, which we also took along with the presidency, are going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, including massive tax cuts for workers and family, and big tax cuts for domestic producers and manufacturers. And we're working with the Democrats on getting an extension of the original Trump tax cuts, as you probably know, by just reading any paper. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA. Already Americans' economic, you can see this, I think, maybe even in your wonderful, wonderful room that you're all gathered together, so many of my friends, but Americans, the economic confidence is soaring like we haven't seen in many, many decades, maybe not at all. Upon my election, it was just announced that small business optimism skyrocketed by 41 points in a single month. That's the highest ever. There's never been anything like that. SoftBank has announced between a $100 and $200 billion investment in the U.S. economy because of the election result. And just 2 days ago, Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure. Other companies likewise have announced billions and billions and billions, adding up to trillions of investment in America, in the United States. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America. But I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which, frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. That didn't show a lot of love by them not doing it. I was a little surprised by that. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war. They should have done it long ago. They're very responsible, actually, to a certain extent, for what's taking place. Millions of lives are being lost. With oil prices going down, I'll demand that interest rates drop immediately, and likewise, they should be dropping all over the world. Interest rates should follow us. All over, the progress that you're seeing is happening because of our historic victory in a recent presidential election, one that has become quite well known throughout the world. I think a lot of things are happening to a lot of countries. They say that there's light shining all over the world since the election, and even countries that we aren't particularly friendly with are happy because they understand what there is a future and how great the future will be. Under our leadership, America is back and open for business. And this week, I'm also taking swift action to stop the invasion at our southern border. They allowed people to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It was ridiculous. I decided and declared to do, and very, very importantly, a national emergency on our border, immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came. That action, as you've probably seen, has already started very strongly. I've deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion. We will not allow our territory to be violated. After 4 long years, the United States is strong and sovereign and a beautiful nation. Once again, it's a strong, sovereign nation. In addition, I'm pleased to report that America is also a free nation once again. On day one, I signed an executive order to stop all government censorship. No longer will our government label the speech of our own citizens as misinformation or disinformation, which are the favorite words of censors and those who wish to stop the free exchange of ideas and, frankly, progress. We have saved free speech in America, and we've saved it strongly. With another historic executive order this week, I also ended the weaponization of law enforcement against the American people and, frankly, against politicians, and restored the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. And these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector. with the recent yet somewhat unexpected great Supreme Court decision just made, America will once again become a merit-based country. You have to hear that word, merit-based country. And I've made it official, an official policy of the United States, that there are only two genders, male and female. And we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely. Finally, as we restore common sense in America, we're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad. I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did, because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But many, many things have been unfair for many years to the United States. Before even taking office, my team negotiated a ceasefire agreement in the Middle East, which wouldn't have happened without us, as I think most of the people in the room know. Earlier this week, the hostages began to return to their families. They are returning, and it's a beautiful sight, and they'll be coming in more and more. They started coming back on Sunday. Our efforts to secure a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine are now hopefully underway. It's so important to get that done. That is an absolute killing field. Millions of soldiers are being killed. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. They're laying dead all over the flat fields. It's a flat field farmland. And there's millions of Russians and millions of Ukrainians. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. It's time to end it. And here in America, we have big events coming up. Next year, we have the 250th anniversary of America's founding. I'm so honored to be president during that. That's been a big event. They've been talking about it for 10 years. We also have the World Cup. And I understand Gianni's in the room. Infantino, he was very instrumental in helping us get it. He's there with you someplace, I think, and I want to thank him for that. And then we have the Olympics coming up, which I was instrumental in getting also in my first term. And who would have known that by skipping a term, I would get the Olympics? I was upset. I said, you know, I got the Olympics to come and I won't be president. But it turned out through a stroke of luck, or whatever you might call it, that I'm going to be president during the World Cup and the Olympics and the 250th anniversary. So that's going to be three big events. And we've accomplished more in less than 4 days. We have really been working 4 days than other administrations have accomplished in 4 years. And we're just getting started. It's really an amazing thing to see. And the spirit and the light over our country has been incredible. Under the last administration, our nation has suffered greatly, but we're going to bring it back and make it greater, bigger, stronger, better than ever before. I want to thank everybody for being with you. I would have been there myself, except the inauguration was 2 days ago. I thought it might be a little bit quick to make it the first stop, but we'll get there one day. We hope to get there. But I do appreciate, I heard the audience is fantastic, and many of my friends are in the audience, and I will be taking questions now from some very distinguished people. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that very powerful speech. And I think you could hear the applause all the way from Davos to the White House. But next year it will be even better, because then you can get the applause here in Davos. So we wish you welcome to our village next year. We hope to see you.
Thank you very much.
So we also know, Mr. President, that you open up for interaction here. We have a great panel with some of the most distinguished business people in the world. Let me start with someone that you know really well, that I think is almost a neighbor of you in Florida. Mr. Steve Schwarzman, Chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Blackstone Group. So, Steve, floor is yours.
Well, Mr. President, I'm sure the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia will be really glad you gave this speech today. You've had the busiest 4 days that anybody can imagine, and congratulations for that. My question is about some of the things I've observed here at Davos. It's a terrific forum. I've met lots of people, as usual. I think I've been here 30 years. And a lot of the European business people have expressed enormous frustration with the regulatory regime in the EU, and they attribute slower growth rates here because of the numerous factors, but especially because of regulations. And you've taken a completely different approach in this area. And if you could explain the theory of what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and what you expect the outcome to be, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations, Steve. You're a friend of mine, but on a great career. You have had an amazing career, and it continues. So I just want to congratulate you. Very inspirational to a lot of people. I want to talk about the EU, because you mentioned specifically that I have also had a lot of friends and leaders of countries. I've gotten to know them all my first term and a little bit during this period of 4 years, and know them well, like them a lot. But they're very frustrated because of the time everything seems to take to get approved, environmental impact statements for things that you shouldn't even have to do that, and many, many other ways that it takes. And I'm going to give you a quick little example. In the private life, my beautiful private life, before I had all these things happening, the world is a little different. I had a nice, simple life. You knew that. But when I had that simple life, I did projects, and I had a big project in Ireland, and it had to get approval on something that would have made it even better. And I got the approval from Ireland in a period of a week, and it was a very, very, very efficient, good approval. And they informed me, though, the problem is you're going to have to get it from the EU, and we think that'll take 5 to 6 years. And I said, you have to be kidding. And this was before politics. And I said, wait a minute, it's not that important. I don't want to go 5 or 6 years, but it would have been a big investment. It would have been nice, and it would have been good for the project. And I sent the people to the EU to see if they could speed it up. And basically it was a 5 or 6 year wait just to get a simple approval that Ireland gave me in a period of literally not much more than a week. And I realized right then, that was the first time I really was involved with the EU, but I realized right then that's a problem, and I didn't even bother applying to do it. Or if I did, I pulled it very quickly. I have to be very accurate because I don't want to be criticized. He did apply, actually. No, I want to be very accurate. So I don't think I did, but if I did, I pulled it very quickly. It was just something you couldn't wait 5 years or 6 years to get an approval. So a lot of in a very big business sense, a lot of people are claiming that's the problem. From the standpoint of America, the EU treats us very, very unfairly, very badly. They have a large tax that we know about, and a VAT tax, and it's a very substantial one. They don't take essentially don't take our farm products, and they don't take our cars, yet they send cars to us by the millions. They put tariffs on things that we want to do. Like, for instance, I think they actually, in terms of these are non-economic or non-monetary tariffs, and those are very bad, and they make it very difficult to bring products into Europe, and yet they expect to be selling, and they do sell their products in the United States. So we have, hundreds of billions of dollars of deficits with the EU. And nobody's happy with it, and we're going to do something about it, but nobody's happy with it. So I think the EU has to speed up their process. Friends of mine that are in some of the nations within the EU, great people, they want to be able to compete better, and you can't compete when you can't go through the approval process fast. There's no reason why it can't go faster. So, I'm trying to be constructive because I love Europe. I love the countries of Europe, but the process is a very cumbersome one. And they do treat the United States of America very, very unfairly with the VAT taxes and all of the other taxes they impose. One other, just to finish up, I got a call from the head of a major airline, one of the biggest airlines in the world, and he said, "Sir, could you help us? What? Landing in Europe is brutal. They charge us fees for everything, and it's so unfair." I said, "How does it compare to China?" He said, it's much worse. And the other thing, as you know, they took court cases with Apple, and they supposedly won a case that most people didn't think was much of a case. They won 15 or 16 billion from Apple. They won billions from Google. I think they're after Facebook for billions and billions. These are American companies, whether you like them or not. They're American companies, and they shouldn't be doing that. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a form of taxation. So we have some very big complaints with the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We'll now go to one of your friends in the EU, Patrick Pouyanné. He's the chairman and CEO of Total Energies. I guess you have a question ready, Patrick, for the president.
Mr. President, as we understand, energy is at the top of your agenda, and it's an honor for me to represent the energy industry tonight in this panel. Total Energies is indeed the fourth largest oil and gas and electricity company in the world. I will not ask you a question about the oil price. It's quite clear what you expect from us. I will go to gas more. And our company is the largest #1 exporter LNG from the US company. We are a strong contributor to, and we invest in a mammoth LNG projects in Texas, $20 billion. It's far from 200, but it's $20 billion. And we contribute with that to security of supply to Europe, as we export this LNG to Europe. Some experts fear that if there are too many projects developed in the US on LNG, this could have an inflationary impact on the US domestic gas price. And they recommend a pause on these projects. I would ask you the following question: what are your views about such a pause on investments on LNG in the US? What would happen if you would observe an increased domestic gas price because of these exports? And final question, which is important for Europe: would you agree to guarantee security of supply of US LNG to Europe?
Well, in the last part of your question, yes, I would. I would make sure that you get it. If we make a deal, we make a deal, you'll get it. Because a lot of people do have that problem. They make a deal and then it can't get supplied because of war-type problems and other problems. So we would absolutely do that. LNG is very interesting because when I took office for the first term, one of the first things I looked at was there were two very massive plants in Louisiana, a state that has been very good to me, won it by many, many points. And I felt strongly indebted to it, actually. And they said there are two plants that have been under environmental consideration for more than 10 years. And they were costing, as you say, you know how expensive those plants are, but they were costing like 12 billion and I think 14 or 15 billion. But they couldn't get their permits. They were in review for years, many, many years, like a decade or more. And I said, so ridiculous. I know so much about that because in the construction industry, I had to go through it too, but I got good at it after a while. But I saw the projects, and you're talking about a total investment of 25 to $30 billion, and it looked like it was going to end. They couldn't get their permits. And I got them done in less than a week. It was done, completed. In fact, when they called them to announce that it was done, the countries, largely countries, Japan was involved and another country and some very big investors, they couldn't believe it. They actually couldn't believe it. And I said, just do yourself one favor. Don't pay any consultants, because the only one that got it done was me. I got it done because it was the right thing to do for the U.S. and for the world, but the consultants had nothing to do with it. You know, the consultants go in and they say, give us millions of dollars because Trump did it. Nobody called me about it. I just heard it was a problem for years. And I got it done because it was the right thing to do for the U.S. and the right thing to do for beyond. It had to do with energy, very important. So I think it's very important. I think I disagree with one. I think the more that you do, the lower the price is going to go. And what I'd like to see is rapid approvals. We're going to give very rapid approvals in the United States, like with the AI plants, talking to many people want to build them. That's going to be a very big thing. We're going to build electric generating facilities. They are going to build. I'm going to get them the approval. Under emergency declaration, I can get the approvals done myself without having to go through years of waiting. And the big problem is we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? For AI to really be as big as we want to have it, because it's a very competitive, it'll be very competitive with China and others. So I'm going to give emergency declarations so that they can start building them almost immediately. And I think it was largely my idea because nobody thought this was possible. It wasn't that they were not smart, because they're the smartest. But I told them that what I want you to do is build your electric generating plant right next to your plant as a separate building connected. And they said, wow, you're kidding. And I said, no, I'm not kidding. You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any way to get any electricity. So we are going to allow them to go on a very rapid basis to build their plant, build the electric generating plant. They can fuel it with anything they want, and they may have coal as a backup, good, clean coal. If there were a problem with a pipe coming in, as an example, you're going with gas, oil or gas, and a pipe gets blown up or for some reason doesn't work, there are some companies in the U.S. that have coal sitting right by the plant so that if there's an emergency, they can go to that short-term basis and use our very clean coal. So that's something else that a lot of people didn't even know about, but nothing can destroy coal, not the weather, not a bomb, nothing. It might make it a little smaller, might make it a little different shape, but coal is very strong as a backup. It's a great backup to have that facility, and it wouldn't cost much more money. And we have more coal than anybody. We also have more oil and gas than anybody. So we're going to make it so that the plants will have their own electric generating facilities attached right to their plant. They don't have to worry about a utility. They don't have to worry about anything. And we're going to get very rapid approvals.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. We'll now go to another CEO that you know very well, Brian Moynihan, the CEO and chair of Bank of America.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, and congratulations, and obviously an eventful week for you and your family. If you remember, 5 years ago, you came here and we walked among 150 CEOs from all over the world, and you engaged with them about your policies and your procedures. This year, you're not here, and yet this week was eventful from the orders that you mentioned earlier, literally a wave of orders coming out on immigration, on trade, and many other matters. And so, as a representative of the United States here, we got a lot of questions about what does all this mean and how would the president square this with his clear focus on growth, prosperity, market growth, stock market growth, a good bond market, and bringing down prices. So how do you think about the impact of all these orders and how fast they come out, and how you're going to balance them with that scorecard of being successful in both continuing GDP growth, bringing down inflation, and also having a good stock price appreciation for the American citizen?
Well, I think it's going to actually bring down inflation. It's going to bring up jobs. We're going to have a lot of jobs. We're going to have a lot of companies moving in. Brian, we're at 21%. It was at 40%, and I got it down to 21%, the corporate tax. And it was actually, if you look at state and city, it was in many cases much higher than 40%. I got it down to 21%. And now we're going to bring it down from 21 to 15% if, there's a big if you make your product in the U.S. So we're going to have the lowest, just about the lowest rate. It'll be, the 21 is on the low side worldwide. The 15 is about as low as it gets, and by far the lowest of a large country, a large rich, powerful country by far, not even a contest. So we're going to bring it down to 15% if you make your product in the USA. So that's going to create a tremendous buzz. We're also probably going back to the one-year deduction where we deduct, we did that originally, and that was amazing what the impact that had, the one-year deduction, which built up over a period of time, and then it expires. But we're going to go back to that when we do the renewal of the Trump tax plan. We have to get Democrats to approve it. But, if the Democrats didn't approve it, I don't know how they can survive with about a 45% tax increase, because that's what it would be. And so I think they're going to be. We've been working along with them pretty well. I think it's very hard for a political group to say, let's charge people 45% more. So I think we're in good shape. But we're actually doing a reduction for business and small businesses where you're going to bring it down to 15%, which is really something. And by the way, speaking of you, and you've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank, and that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business. And I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
Mr. President, I'll say that your friend Gianni said hello, told me to tell you hello, and we look forward to sponsoring the World Cup when it comes, both this summer for the club and next year. So thank you for getting that for the United States.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll now go to Anna Butin. She's the executive chairman of Banco Santander, one of the big European banks, and also in the U.S. So, Anna.
Mr. President, congratulations on a historic victory. I believe you don't know me as well as my fellow panelists, so a few words. Santander is one of the largest banks in the world by number of customers, 170 million. That's more than my friend Brian or my friend Jamie have. And those...
They fixed the regulation.
That's coming, that's coming.
That was cheeky.
We're a big investor in the United States. We have many million customers, 12,000 employees. We're one of the largest auto lenders. And we recently launched a fully digital bank called Open Bank. We strongly believe banks have a pivotal role in the economy, and we can accelerate growth and help many more customers. That's what we're doing in the United States. So, as Brian pointed out, we very much welcome your focus on deregulation and reducing bureaucracy. So my question is, what are your priorities in this regard, and how fast is this going to happen? Thank you very much.
I think it's going to, thank you and congratulations. I know very much about your bank, and you've done a fantastic job. Congratulations. We are going to move very quickly. We've moved very quickly. We've done things in the last 3 days that nobody thought were possible to do in years. And it's all taking effect. It's going to have a huge impact on the economy, a huge positive impact. Money was being wasted on crazy things. I mean, the Green New Deal was such a total disgrace, how that was perpetrated. And it was conceived of by people that were average students, less than average students, I might add, and never even took a course in energy or the environment. It was just a game. Remember, the world was going to end in 12 years? Remember that? Well, the 12 years has come and gone. It was going to end. It was going to all foam into earth. But, you know, the time has come. These people, and they really scared the Democrats large. I can't say the Republicans. The Republicans maybe could have fought harder to stop it, but it's been a tremendous waste of money. You know, during my 4 years, we had the cleanest air, we had the cleanest water, and yet we had the most productive economy in the history of our country. We had the most productive economy until COVID came. We had the most productive in the history of our country by far, and actually, you could look worldwide. We were beating everybody from China to everybody else. So, and we think we really now, with what we have learned and all of the other things that have taken place, we think we can even far surpass that, actually far, far surpass it. But one thing we're going to be demanding is we're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. I don't know if it's good for them. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state. And if you're a state, we won't have a deficit. We won't have to tariff you, et cetera, et cetera. But Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years. And it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody. So, just as an example, with Mexico, we're dealing with Mexico, I think, very well. And we're just, we just want to be treated fairly with other nations, because there's hardly a nation in the world, and I blame this on us, and I blame it on politicians that, for some reason, mostly it's stupidity, but you could also say other reasons, but mostly stupidity. They've allowed other nations to take advantage of the U.S., and we can't allow that to happen anymore. We have debt. It's a very small debt when you compare it to the value of the assets that we have, but we don't want to do that. We want to just have debt be obliterated, and we'll be able to do that fairly rapidly. And a lot of good things are going to happen. And honestly, good things are going to happen for the world, and good things are going to happen for the people that are dealing with us, allies and beyond allies. One thing very important, I really would like to be able to meet with President Putin soon and get that war ended. And that's not from the standpoint of economy or anything else. It's from the standpoint of millions of lives are being wasted. Beautiful young people are being shot in the battlefield. The bullet, very flat land, as I said, and the bullet goes, there's no hiding. And a bullet, the only thing going to stop the bullet is a human body. And you have to see, I've seen pictures of what's taken place. It's a carnage, and we really have to stop that war. That war is horrible. And I'm not talking economy. I'm not talking economics. I'm not talking about natural resource. I'm just talking about there's so many young people being killed in this war, and that's not including the people that have been killed as the cities are being, knocked down building by building. So we really should get that stopped. Likewise, in the Middle East, I think we've made a lot of progress in the Middle East, and I think that's gonna come along pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We know that the most consequential relationship in the world is between the U.S. and China. U.S. 28% of the global economy, China close to 20%. That's almost half of the global GDP. And we know that you called President Xi Jinping last Friday. We heard that you had a good discussion. How do you see the relationship between the U.S. and China in the next 4 years under your leadership?
He called me, but I see it very good. I think that we're going to have a very good relationship. All we want is fairness. We just want a level playing field. We don't want to take advantage. We've been having massive deficits with China. Biden allowed it to get out of hand. He's $1.1 trillion deficit. It's ridiculous. And it's just an unfair relationship. And we have to make it just fair. We don't have to make it phenomenal. We have to make it a fair relationship. Right now, it's not a fair relationship. The deficit is massive, as it is with other countries, a lot of Asian countries, actually. But we have deficits that are very big, and we can't keep doing that. So we're not going to keep doing that. But I like President Xi very much. I've always liked him. We always had a very good relationship. It was very strained with COVID coming out of Wuhan. Obviously, that strained it. I'm sure it strained it with a lot of people, but that strained our relationship. But we always had a great relationship, I would say, and we look forward to doing very well with China and getting along with China. Hopefully, China can help us stop the war with, in particular, Russia, Ukraine. They have a great deal of power over that situation, and we'll work with them. And I mentioned that during our phone conversation with President Xi, and hopefully we could work together and get that stopped. We'd like to see denuclearization. In fact, with President Putin, prior to an election result, which was frankly ridiculous, we were talking about denuclearization of our two countries, and China would have come along. China has a much smaller right now nuclear armament than us, or field than us, but they're going to be catching it at some point over the next 4 or 5 years. And I will tell you that President Putin really liked the idea of cutting way back on nuclear. And I think the rest of the world, we would have gotten them to follow. And China would have come along too. China also liked it. Tremendous amounts of money are being spent on nuclear. And the destructive capability is something that we don't even want to talk about today because you don't want to hear it. It's too depressing. So we want to see if we can denuclearize, and I think that's very possible. And I can tell you that President Putin wanted to do it. He and I wanted to do it. We had a good conversation with China. They would have been involved, and that would have been an unbelievable thing for the planet.
Mr. President, when you're back here in Davos next year, will there be then a peace agreement with Ukraine and Russia by then?
Well, you're going to have to ask Russia. Ukraine is ready to make a deal. Just so you understand, this is a war that should have never started. If I were president, it would never have started. This is a war that should have never, ever been started. And it wasn't started during there was never even talk about it. I knew that it was the apple of President Putin's eye, but I also knew that there was no way he was going in, and he wasn't going to go in. And then when I was out, bad things happened, bad things were said, a lot of stupidity all around, and you end up with what you have. Now you have all these bombed out cities. They look like demolition sites with many people killed. I think the thing that you'll see about Ukraine is that far more people have died than is being reported. And I've seen that. But far, far more people have died. When you look at a city that's become a demolition site where big buildings have been collapsed by missiles hitting them and everything else, and they say one person was slightly injured. No, many people were killed. Those are big buildings. I was surprised at how that was my business. These are buildings that go 2 and 3 blocks long. They're 20 stories high. They're big, powerful buildings, and they were knocked down, and there were a lot of people in those buildings that announced that 2 people were injured. That's not true. So I think you're going to find that there were many more people killed in Ukraine in the Ukraine war than anybody has any idea. But if you look now, so many of the people being killed are soldiers just facing each other with guns, rifles, and drones, the new form of warfare, drones. And it's a very sad thing to see. And when you see pictures of the fields that I see, nobody wants to see it. You'll never be the same.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, on behalf of all the 3,000 participants here in Davos. We really underline that joining us the third day in your presidency, live taking questions here is so appreciated, and we are already ready for receiving you next year in person. So thank you very much, and all the best from Davos.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, there we go, folks. That was the speech and the question and answers with President Donald Trump. What did you folks think about that in the live chat? Is it what you expected or not? So anyway, I wanted to show you, a few people have asked that there was the Vatican sent a message earlier from Pope Francis to the World Economic Forum. So some of the people in the chat wanted to see that event, which was earlier. So I will now show you the Vatican message from Pope Francis at the World Economic Forum earlier. Here we go, folks. So this is about
My name is Mark Vlasic. I split time between teaching at Georgetown, private practice, and TV producing in Hollywood. But the reason I'm here today is to invite a special guest from the Vatican to deliver a special message from the Holy Father, Pope Francis. Cardinal Peter Turkson is from Ghana. He is the Chancellor of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. But prior to that, he was president of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace and the inaugural prefect of the Vatican's dicastery for promoting integral human development. Most importantly, I've known him for about a decade, and I first met him at a conference in Rome hosted by the Vatican and by a Dutch ambassador to the Holy See, Prince Jaime, on a special session on the economy according to Pope Francis for family businesses. So I can think of no better person to deliver this special message from the Holy Father than Cardinal Turkson, who's been working on these issues for so long. Your Eminence, the floor is yours. Grazie.
So thank you for everything that you've said. So as some of you, all of you may know, Pope Francis does receive invites from Professor Schwab to attend the World Economic Forum. And for very many reasons, he's not able to do this, but he always tries to send a message that I feel privileged always to, bring to this forum. So yesterday in the evening, I presented the message to Professor Schwab. And after that, kind of received this permission from him to also present it to the public, because the message was addressed to the chairman of the World Economic Forum, and that's what it was. So I'm reading the message that I delivered yesterday to Professor Schwab. So it says, message of His Holiness Pope Francis to the chairman of the World Economic Forum on the occasion of the annual gathering in Davos Cloisters on the 20th to the 24th of January 2025. The theme of this year's annual meeting of the World Economic Forum, Collaboration for the Intelligent Age, provides a good opportunity to reflect on artificial intelligence as a tool, not only for cooperation, but also to bring people together. The Christian tradition regards the gift of intelligence as an essential aspect of the human person created in the image of God. At the same time, the Catholic Church has always been a protagonist and a supporter of the advancement of science, technology, the arts, and other forms of human endeavors of science and technology, considering them to be areas of collaboration of man and woman with God in perfecting the visible creation. AI is intended to imitate the human intelligence that designed it, thus posing a unique set of questions and challenges. Unlike many other human inventions, AI is trained on the results of human creativity, which enables it to generate new artifacts with a skill, level, and speed that often rival or surpasses human capabilities, raising critical concerns about its impact on humanity's role in the world. Furthermore, the results that AI can produce are almost indistinguishable from those of human beings, raising questions about its effect on the growing crisis of truth in the public forum. Moreover, this technology is designed to learn and to make certain choices autonomously, adapting to new situations and providing answers not foreseen by its programmers, thus raising fundamental questions about ethical responsibility, human safety, and the broader implications of these developments for society. While AI is an extraordinary technological achievement capable of imitating certain outputs associated with human intelligence, this technology makes a technical choice among several possibilities based either on well-defined criteria or on statistical inferences. Human beings, however, not only choose, but in their hearts are capable also of deciding. Indeed, the very use of the word intelligence in connection with artificial intelligence is a misnomer. Since AI is not an artificial form of human intelligence, rather it's a product of human intelligence. When used correctly, AI assists the human person in fulfilling his or her vocation in freedom and responsibility. As with all other human activity and technological development, AI must be ordered to the human person and become part of efforts to achieve greater justice, more extensive fraternity, and a more humane order of social relations, which are more valuable than advances in the technical field. So there is, however, the risk that AI will be used to advance the technocratic paradigm, which perceives all the world's problems as solvable through technological means alone. Within this paradigm, human dignity and fraternity are frequently subordinated in the pursuit of efficiency, as though reality, goodness, and truth inherently emanate from technological and economic power. Yet human dignity must never be violated for the sake of efficiency. Technological development that does not improve life for everyone, but instead creates worsen inequalities and conflicts cannot be called true progress. For this reason, AI should be placed at the service of a healthier, more human, more social, and more integral development. Progress marked by the dawn of AI calls for a rediscovery of the importance of community and a renewed commitment to care for a common home entrusted to us by God. To navigate the complexities of AI, governments and businesses must exercise due diligence and vigilance. They must critically evaluate the individual applications of AI in particular contexts in order to determine whether its use promotes human dignity, the vocation of the human person, and the common good. As with many technologies, the effects of the various uses of AI may not always be predictable from their inception. As the application of AI and the social impact become clearer over time, appropriate responses should be made at all levels of society according to the principle of subsidiarity with individual users, families, civil society, corporations, institutions, governments, and international organizations working at their proper levels to ensure that AI is directed to the good of all. Today, there are significant challenges and opportunities when AI is placed within a framework of relational intelligence, where everyone shares responsibility for the integral well-being of others. With these sentiments, I offer my prayerful good wishes for the deliberations of the forum and upon all taking part in it, and I willingly invoke an abundance of divine blessings on all. Signed in the Vatican on the 14th of January, 2025. Pope Francis.
Thank you so much, Your Eminence. That's a beautiful message and something we can all bring back to our home countries and to indeed our families, our human family. We have time for some questions here from the audience. Do we have any questions to start off the morning? Well, let me kick off with the first question, Your Eminence. This message was a beautiful message. It does not come out of nowhere. The Holy Father, the Holy See, the Vatican, you have been working on these issues for some time, whether it be AI or human fraternity. Can you tell us a bit about the journey that the Vatican and you and the Holy Father have had on these intersecting paths that we see here in Davos, whether it be human fraternity, bringing people together, Laudato Si, the importance of care for our human family, our human planet, and of course on these issues on AI.
Yeah. Thanks, Flasik, and I think this probably is all to be related and inserted within the very basic question or issue about even why the Vatican is interested in a forum like this, or bringing economists and all business people together. You know, for a long time, since the 1960s, when the Church held its biggest meeting, the Second Vatican Council, the sense was greatly expressed that the Church should stay closer and closer to humanity, to human society and all, and get interested also in engaging with society about all its challenges and everything. AI at this point in human history happens to be one of these. And just as the Church is so making a reference to the office, I come from Ghana, the office I was invited to the Vatican to handle, it's all about social issues. It's sometimes about economics, it's about finance, it's about ecology, it's about, refugees and migrants and all of this. So all of them just is simply this, that the well-being of the human person must be sought after in all situations and under all conditions. And that also means that where there was a perceived threat or whatever, something to look at. So since my presence in the Vatican, we've done this. We looked at economics and how it serves the well-being. And so we came, Pope Francis, challenged a lot of young people all around the world to come together to figure out the new economics that satisfies the well-being of all of people. So we call it the economy of Pope Francis. Then environment, when right from the first day of his, of his election as a pope, his concern was about ecology. And he invited all of us to exercise custody of creation and well-being of creation and all. And then he came out with this encyclical, Laudato Si, our care for our common home. So with that, again, we felt challenged to also recognize that the world belongs not only to us. We should show some intergenerational solidarity. We inherited this. We need to pass this on, and we cannot deplete it all and pass it on to those who come after us as a desert. So the challenge is also there to be judicious in our use of the resources of the earth so that those who come after us can also benefit. And now it is artificial intelligence. And so the challenge again is, this is a good technology that has been developed, but it's called artificial intelligence. And the first thing is, note that calling this artificial intelligence does not mean that there's an artificial form of human intelligence. That does not exist. Okay, so we call it artificial intelligence simply to draw attention to the fact that it does functions that human intelligence is also able to do. But essentially, it's a product of human intelligence. And once when I ask somebody, for example, about the fact that the brain of the human person with neurons also work with electrical charges, electrical whatever. So why is it that the same thing now working whatever has a bigger speed and all? And the answer I got was that because the human brain has a lot of challenges which slow down the speed of whatever electrical charges can be doing in the brain, concern for others, the health condition of human cells and all of that. So we have this technology which enables us to do a lot of things far faster than the human person can do, and so it becomes essentially a tool. And as a tool in our hands, we need to ensure that it serves the well-being of the human person, does not attenuate its own objectives, but promote it all. So that's the point of the message.
Thank you so much, Your Eminence. Other questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Wait, hold 1 second for the microphone. Thank you.
I'm concerned that artificial intelligence is a way to have less human intelligence and less spiritual intelligence.
Come again, please.
Less spiritual intelligence. And I'm concerned by this fascination for a machine that would be intelligent, even superior to us, even superior to the mystery of life that we are living, you know. So I'm concerned, and I wonder to which extent you can help us address these concerns, not just like praise artificial intelligence and put it everywhere to spend even more energy and to be even more stupid in the way we live together. So can you help me?
So I think the first point is that artificial intelligence is not superior to human intelligence. First thing is to collocate this correctly. And as I said, we call it artificial intelligence. It does not mean that this is an artificial form of human intelligence. That's not what this is. Okay, it does a function of the human intelligence in a way that is faster than the human intelligence does, but it does not replace it. Okay, and so it's the ideal situation is to consider this essentially as a tool. It was created by the human intelligence. It's human beings who created AI. So it's a product of human intelligence, which, however, does not intend to replace human intelligence. And in its function, also shows some limitations that human intelligence has. A generative AI and all of that can make choices, but it does not decide. To decide is to be able to take options, consider moral implications, and decide for this or for that. That is not yet possible for AI. That's why it does not quite replace the function of human intelligence. It's a tool that facilitates certain functions of a human intelligence in a faster way. So that's the thing about the fact that it's intrusive in character, goes into all forms of human life and all of that, and different applications and all of that. The euphoria of having this tool in their hands is to be seen everywhere. It's almost like a child having a new toy, right? So the euphoria of it is discernible. But that's also why here in this forum, there are a lot of groups also discussing how to use it well, so that the human person does not become enslaved to this, but rather is enabled to use this to enhance humanity, to enhance the human person and his goals. So this is the challenge. And therefore, incidentally, this is the message that the Pope addressed to Davos. Last year, in 2024, the Pope came out with another message for peace in the world. That also was related to artificial intelligence and the way that it can promote peace in the world or diminish or whatever peace in the world. So it's used, for example, in an autonomous weapons system. Okay, all of that does not promote peace, but it's possible. It can be used that way. Okay, so all the challenges were drawn up. In an event of election, AI can interfere and manipulate even votes that are cast in elections. So its use is needs a lot of control and guidance from the human society, and that's why the EU is formulating regulations about the use of artificial intelligence. The Vatican itself has also come up with guidelines about the use of artificial intelligence in the Vatican state. So it all requires the guidance of authorities in our society and the world to ensure that it enhances human dignity and human personality and does not diminish it. Does that help you?
Are there questions from the audience? As you think of other questions, maybe I'll come in with a follow-up question, Your Eminence. We are approaching the anniversary of the Holy Father's encyclical focused on the human family. I'd love for you to reflect on the Pope's teachings, his messages on human fraternity, and how you reflect on these messages as we all here gather in Davos from all around the world, from many different faith traditions, and maybe many backgrounds from this beautiful planet of ours.
Yeah, so this encyclical, I think you referred to, has the title Fratelli Tutti. Brothers, we all are, as it were. And so basically, properly put, will be brothers and sisters, we all are. So it doesn't leave out any gender, anybody out of this. So yes, it's an encyclical the Pope came out with. And the focus of that is to appeal to a bond that exists between all of us. So the Pope writing this as a Christian, so Catholic and a Christian, one cannot help but recognize the origin of this. I mean, when in the book of Genesis, for example, the message is that Eve was the mother of all human beings. That just means that the human race has one origin. And when that is the case, then it's not likely that the human population in their diversity, having one origin, have different dignities or different characters. So that would just suggest that human fraternity is a bond that we have from the beginning. That, coming from one origin, so Adam and Eve in that sense, all of us in a way have this bond, this fraternal bond from birth. So the emphasis is on that. This also means that two people cannot come from the same womb and have different dignities. So all human, we have this in the United Nations Charter about all men are whatever. But what is the origin of it? Why can anybody or does anybody affirm that dignity is something that belongs to all? And this probably, if you want, form of expression in the Bible, there is a kind of an answer produced. If we are from the same womb, then clearly we all have the same dignity, the same fraternity bound to us. So the universal fraternity which the Pope affirmed is to draw attention to something that exists and which must become a consideration that we hold in everything that we do. If we are brothers, killing of another human being is a fratricide. It's not just homicide. It's fratricide. You're killing a brother. So it's an act, therefore, that diminishes our own, a sense of human beings, whatever. So it's an appeal to a value, a concept that enables us to rethink a whole lot of issues, a lot of our relational patterns and all of to just make us just conform. So it brings us together, and it's not only the writing of this encyclical that the Pope did, he followed this up with a gesture, a concrete gesture. That's when, true to the name that he took, St. Francis, who in the Middle Ages, in the midst of a war, crossed the border, across the frontier, to go meet the Sultan, Islamic Sultan, to kind of establish relations. So Pope Francis went out of the way to also meet the Muslims in Abu Dhabi. And he met the Grand Imam of Egypt, Al-Azhar University. And there, the two of them signed a document about the same universal fraternity, inviting all to come on board with this recognition that we all belong together because there's a bond of fraternity that unites us. And in that sense, if I may drop a provocative thing, if all of this is true, then my way of looking at things would be, yes, we may all believe in God, but then we come to believe in the human person as a brotherly entity before we even come to religion. And so religion should serve to promote this fraternity and not diminish it. And so when we have the strange case of, people causing violence to one another in the name of religion is an abuse of what we are. Okay, so the equation for me is not God, religion, and a human person. No, it's the other way around, because religion is a product of the human person's experience of divinity. That's what produces religion. So first we have God, we have the human person, and then we have religion. And therefore, the real function of religion then must serve to promote the well-being of our common brotherhood, a common person, and all. Does that help?
I think that's beautiful, and I think one of the things you see from the Pope Francis's teachings is this overwhelming sense of hope.
Yeah.
And that's a message you clearly bring here to the World Economic Forum. This is a special year, a special jubilee year. Indeed, it's a jubilee of hope, very much connecting these past encyclicals and statements by the Holy Father. I think part of that hope also applies to unlawful detainees and folks facing justice and challenges. Could you share a bit about the special jubilee year and this message of hope?
Incidentally, yesterday when we presented this message to Professor Schwab, the title under which we were all invited here to the World Economic Forum was Collaboration, in dealing with artificial intelligence. But Professor Schwab, since we got here in the first day or first meeting he had with civil society leaders, came out with some other term, which is optimism. Okay, so he's talking about calculated optimism as the term. And wherever he's been to, he's talked about this optimism. So yesterday when we met, I said, I think we can relate the two. So coming with this Jubilee year of hope and optimism, the two belong together. And so I said, therefore, we can promote this optimism that you have and you talk about with our pursuit of this Jubilee of hope. Okay, the hope which does not, in the Christian sense, which does not disappoint, which does not, leave us halfway, just draws our attention to the future, opens up to new possibilities, and the sense of this crafted in the Jubilee year is the fact that Jubilee celebration in Scripture and history has always been an occasion to offer people a new lease on life. If you were a slave before, go free, start all over again. Whatever you were before, when the Jubilee year comes, you are enabled to start all afresh. So you have a new lease, a new opportunity to do things. Debts are forgiven, slaves are set free. People have a new possibility of beginning afresh in society. And this you cannot have any concrete form of experiential hope than this. So start afresh, aim at a new thing, become something different than something else than what you were in the past. And this is the optimism of hope, which I think the professor expresses in this forum, and which we think with our celebration of the Jubilee year, we can support, undergird, and push forward.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful message, linking this constructive optimism from Professor Schwab and, of course, the Holy Father's message of hope. Do you have any last thoughts you'd like to share with this room as we close out this session?
I think I would defer to you if you have any last thoughts. No, but I think so we've been some other. I think we've been. Go ahead.
You talked about guidance. We know that technology is growing at an exponential rate, and often, like with social media companies, we don't have the regulations yet in place to provide the guidance that's required. So the technology is growing at a faster pace than we can know how to really use it or be safe with using it. Do you think the Church, the Vatican, or even other spiritual bodies and leaders can have a role to play in providing that guidance? Like you mentioned that in the Vatican you have already guidance of your own.
Yeah, so yes, already last year in January, as I mentioned, at the beginning of every year, the Holy See comes out with a message which he calls Message for the World Day of Peace. Okay, so it's a message whose content is meant, as it were, at the beginning of the year to provide guidelines or suggestions for how people can make the year a peaceful year. And last year was about artificial intelligence. And it makes the affirmation that artificial intelligence is a piece of technology. It's a product of technology. And incidentally, in other areas of human invention and technological development, there's something that the Holy Pope Francis calls technocratic paradigm. Technocratic paradigm is an expression which he refers to and uses to express the fact that there is the tendency for several people that you can deal with every situation and solve every problem with technology. And that, he says, is false. You cannot, with technology, deal with every situation because there are aspects of the human person which exceed and supersede technological applications. So he says he hopes that the artificial intelligence will not become another technological paradigm. People believing that with this they can deal with almost every situation in life. Say it's not quite true. So that's the first caution. The first caution then is about that. And then he goes on then to say, therefore, recognize the concrete forms when which this can be. And the concrete form, again, is what I observed a short while ago, is looking at the name artificial intelligence. And to disabuse people's minds of the fact that artificial intelligence does not mean an artificial form of human intelligence. Artificial intelligence is just a tool created by human intelligence and requires the guidance always of the human intelligence to promote humanity, because humanity, with its endowed intelligence from creation or from the beginning, is to enable itself to live humanly and to live as a human person or whatever. So every tool that it creates is meant to enhance the living of human life in all its fullness. And that is the recommendation that's also made for artificial intelligence. So you talk about guidelines. Therefore, what guidelines can one have? I know EU is working on guidelines. The Vatican has set up its own guidelines for its Vatican territory, and so presents that as a help for other groups. And when the G20 was meeting in Puglia in Italy a few months ago, the Pope went over there and spilled some of these points of his guidance, to direct whatever. So it's like the Pope not imposing, but gently suggesting, giving guidelines or suggestion points of consideration to whatever nations. This is a very gentle way of doing this. When we ourselves in the Pontifical Academy of the Sciences organized an event on artificial intelligence and the Anthropocene, we had a participant from MIT, and an AI specialist, and his thing was bluntly, since in the years when we had cloning and cloning became possible, the world community came together and said, do not clone human beings. And that was accepted as a principle, and nobody has ever gone beyond that. So because that was perceived to be a clear threat to humanity, so the world came together and accept that. So the guy said, why can we not do the same for artificial intelligence? The World Committee come together and set some red lines which, the experimentation of this may not cross. So we're trying to, suggest all of this out there.
Your Eminence, it looks like we are running out of time, but on behalf of everyone here in this room and everyone here in Davos, I want to thank you for your time. I would ask you that you pass on our collective thanks to the Holy Father for this beautiful message, for this sense of hope, and indeed for the special Jubilee year. I know myself and so many here are looking forward to our visits to Rome. Thank you so much. Grazie.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Well, folks, thank you for watching today. This really concerning stuff we've seen, as I'm sure many of you would agree. Look, just because someone says the word religion, it doesn't mean it is the true religion, of course. And what I'm detecting here is a lot of talk about humanism, humanistic principles, which may not be so surprising when the very nature of the Roman Church, Romanism, is based on self-betterment, working your way to God, lifting yourself up in these ways. So this false religion, it's not really surprising, is it, that we would see these principles kind of adapting in this day and age to these new philosophies that are coming in. and humanism is antichrist at its very nature. So I really just want to encourage you, if you are in this deception, to come out of her, my people, as it says in the book of Revelation. All very concerning, and humanism really is just completely antichrist and the complete opposite of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I just hope that you won't follow along with any of these deceptions in terms of this, the Jesuit order, the Pope being the first Jesuit Pope, and everything that's going on here now. We're seeing this idea that transhumanism or a technocracy of some kind is supposedly somehow the answer to all of our problems, and that just is not the case. I mean, there can be some beneficial uses to technology. We're using technology here. It can be used to share the truth, but this rise of this technocratic idea of this, solving all the world's problems, curing diseases, reversing death, all of this is a direct assault on the gospel of Jesus Christ, on the true creator and who he represents and what he represents, and his son, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for our sins to save us. It's not about self-elevation. It's about humbling ourselves, repent and believe in Jesus Christ, who will save us from our sins and give us that new body when we die, eternal life. And then when we receive that new body in glory, we will no longer suffer from disease, from death. He has defeated it at the cross. The answer is not self-elevation or transhumanism. Okay, folks, so this idea of the next stage in human evolution, massive deception in the days we live. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this has been beneficial and helpful to see first Donald Trump's address to the World Economic Forum and kind of the nuances involved in that, and then this Vatican representative who's representing the Pope here, his message to the World Economic Forum, again about technology and all of that. So I hope it's been beneficial. If you enjoy our independent journalism, please do consider becoming a channel member to help us with the licenses as we bring these live exclusive broadcasts here to you. These are all, through the licenses we have to show it. And I just hope that showing this will keep you informed about what is going on in this world at this time. Thank you, everyone. Please subscribe. And if the mods could post the links, thanks to all the mods for your help as well. It's been a very busy chat and really do appreciate your help to the mods and for all the viewers as well. See you next time, folks. Please do subscribe, click the notification bell to all notifications so you'll see every time we go live. Thank you.